think outside the box sometimes, you can really ramp this up. I mean, you can dial it up. If you get way too busy, you can dial it back. Okay, sometimes we get busy and we got too much going on. We dial it back. If we know we need more deals, we can dial it up. Raul talked about at the end of the year, he dialed it up because he was told that that's a good time of year, and that's a great time of year to be buying, is when there's less people out there that are competing. So you can dial it up, you can dial it back. The point is, if you get pretty good at this, you can then bring in the heavy equipment, and you can really ratchet it up as well. And, bring in the backhoe, right? So there's online marketing and there's offline marketing. I would be giving you an injustice to talk about online marketing tonight because I'm not an online expert. I mean, we do have an online presence. There's so many ways to market online as well. There's cost per click advertising, pay per click advertising, obviously using social media and so forth. But we're going to focus mostly for tonight's discussion on offline marketing, not online marketing. But I encourage you to have a presence online regardless. It really is another avenue, as you heard tonight, and I'll second that. We do get some leads coming in from the internet presence that we have as well. But it's not as overwhelming as maybe some other methods, and you heard that tonight also. So, what do you see here? You guys are really sharp, I'll tell you. Your marketing campaign really needs to create a system for a number of things. Number one, you want to create awareness. You want to generate interest. This is called a marketing funnel, okay? Leads are supposed to come in at the top. They're supposed to be screened and filtered, and then they're supposed to exit. And so you want to create awareness through your marketing. You want to generate interest from the sellers. You want to evaluate or screen out what we call suspects from prospects. And there is a big difference between a suspect and a prospect. The simplest way I can describe it is a suspect, for the most part, is a tire kicker. They're looking for information. They're really not committed. They're wishy-washy. Those are suspects. A prospect is somebody who really has a need, a strong need to move forward and wants to sell their property. Does everybody understand that distinction? Okay. You want to try to get the people, once you're talking to them, to commit to doing business with you, and then you want to, at some point, if you've successfully done business with them, ask for obtaining referrals and repeat business. Because when you get referral business, that's gravy. You don't have to really spend any money to do that, right? That's wonderful. So testimonials, asking for people to give you maybe video testimonials or written testimonials, that's all real good stuff. You should be doing that. So here's a few prospecting sources of leads that people that provide benefits. And by the way, I'm going to share you a way that we have a special free report that we can send you tonight. I'll put the slide up in a moment, which will give you all of these prospects, some of the resources that we're going to cover here tonight. But let's just look at a few of them here. These are people that come in contact with folks that need to sell or have property that they need to dispose of. Divorce situations, foreclosure, delinquent taxes, code enforcement, home inspection companies, attorneys, of course, CPAs for tax reasons, property managers, hard money lenders, maybe they've taken back a property or they got a project going sideways, private money lenders, mail carriers, garbage collectors, pizza delivery. Anybody ever order pizza that gets delivered to them, but not from one of the national chains, maybe a private Papa Joe's or whatever the name of the place may be? Maybe you can befriend them to put your flyer on their pizza delivery box. Just another out-of-the-box way of getting your message out, right, of what you do. That might even defray some of their cost of their boxes or whatever. Meter readers, meter shut-off people, process servers, lawn service people, fire departments where there's burnout properties, landlord associations, RIAs or meetups like this, and also one of our favorites called the Landlord Lounge. Does anybody know what the Landlord Lounge stands for?
Courthouse.
Eviction.
The eviction court. What do you do when you go to evict somebody? You usually go to, you sit there and wait for the hearing and lounge and use your cell phone if they even allow it in the courthouse. But that's the Landlord Lounge, okay? So let's talk about the top 10 best target markets for flipping deals in their order of importance. This is for direct mail or otherwise. And I'll go through these. Again, they'll be in that free report if you want to get that. Absentee owners with equity midterm. What does midterm mean? they've owned their home for at least 7 years or longer. That means they probably had some time to build up equity. If you bought a property in 2009 and you still own it today, do you think you might have some equity in it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd say probably yes. Depends on where you bought it, I guess. If it was in Bakersfield, maybe not. But, you know, maybe in the Bay Area, yes. So, absentee owners with equity midterm located out of the subject city. These are people who live not in the same town where the property is, but in maybe a nearby town, but they're not in, they have a house in Petaluma, they may live in Rohnert Park, so they're not in the same city, they're still an absentee owner. Absentee owners with equity midterm located in the city where the property is. They have a rental property or a property that is non-owner occupied in Petaluma, they live in Petaluma, so they can look over their egg basket. Owner occupied with equity that have had long-term ownership. These are people who have owned their property for a long period of time. Inherited properties. This is a big, big thing. People inherit property, and we were talking about this earlier tonight. When people get a windfall and a property is given to them, they may not even live in the area, especially if it needs work, and there may be other assets in the estate, do you think they really want that property? Most of the time they just want the cash, and they don't want to be hassled with having to do much, and they can't wait to get their hands on the cash rather than the property. The property is just a means to an end. So inherited properties are very, very strong. Probate properties as well. Mortgage lates, these are people who obviously are experiencing financial distress 60 to 120 days past due. The problem is there's a lot of people chasing this market. A lot of people chasing pre-foreclosure or foreclosure deals. And there's not that many in the market that we're in right now. But at certain times, these things ebb and flow, okay? Non-NODs filed where there is actually a notice of default that's been filed or a les pendens that's been filed. And then owner-occupied ownership midterm where they actually live in the home and they have equity. And then finally, quitclaim deeds. Now think about this for a minute. Why might a quitclaim deed be something you might want to look at and target a person that's been doing a quitclaim deed transfer? When are quitclaim deeds used? Divorce, legal settlements sometimes, to clean up title issues. Generally, it has something to, could have some motivation or high probability of somebody maybe wanting to dispose of the property. So it's an interesting niche, if you will, is getting data on quitclaim deeds that have been recorded and then targeting those particular parties. So, I talked about that free report, okay, which covers a lot of this processing sources, data lists, some of the skip tracing and dialer service, where to go, keyword searches, marketing materials. If you want that report, do me a favor, you can just send me an email to my email address and put in the subject line, free report. Just put your name in there, your complete name, and send me an email. We'll send you this report. It's about a 6-page report that covers a lot of these sources and a couple of other tips, okay? You got my email address, and just put free report in there and put in your information, your contact info. So, getting back to defaults again, we talked about it a moment ago. A lot of people are targeting pre-foreclosure folks. It is not uncommon. There is motivation there, but these people many times bury themselves into denial. They are getting all kinds of mail. Because there's now a recorded NOD filed that says there's something going on with this property, right? Now, I'm using this message. Obviously, you wouldn't want to use this type of marketing message, okay? But it just kind of feels that way sometimes, targeting foreclosure people. But targeting the NOD or pre-foreclosure property owners, again, we go through ebbs and flows in the marketplace. Right now, there's not a lot of foreclosures, and the ones that there are, these people are being bombarded and inundated with mail, and even people sometimes trying to, catch them in other ways. So they're going to get a lot of mail. They're often, as I said earlier, in denial. They're burrowing themselves into a hole in the ground or whatever and not willing to talk to people, often until it's too late, and then often it's too late to even help them. I don't highly recommend it, but there can be some benefits. You might want to engage somebody to do this kind of activity for you, because there are still some opportunities in the distressed market where there's defaults like this. So, we're going to talk about a variety of really tried and true ways to market also. Many of you are familiar with some of these things, But we talked earlier about online, internet presence, website squeeze pages, Craigslist, backlist, blogging, SEO, social media, etc. Bandit signs, Raul is not a big fan of them. I'm not a big fan of them in certain markets. I don't think I would use bandit signs in Palo Alto. I don't think we're gonna get a lot of response on those bandit signs.
I was a big fan.
Yeah, you can't, well, okay, in Vallejo, I probably would consider still using bandit signs. So again, you know, think about where you're using them and how you're using them. But they do work. Again, there's ebbs and flows in the marketplace. Door hangers, post-it notes, flyers. You know, either doing it yourself or going out and having other people post those things and hang them on the doors to keep your name in front of folks about what you do and the services you do. Networking, RIAs, word of mouth, or flapping your lips. One of my favorites again, we talk about door knocking, walking neighborhoods. Very effective sometimes, even with the NODs. We actually had a person that spent 6 hours in Vallejo a few months ago door knocking in neighborhoods. We were rehabbing a house in the neighborhood, and we happened to go out and knock on the doors in the neighborhood and say, hey, well, we're renovating this one over here. You know, do you know anybody that might be interested in selling, you know, in the home? Because we buy properties and we transform them. And we got chased, I should say we, but the person that was doing the door knocking got chased off the premises a few times. They were threatened to be shot at in one case. But a couple of weeks after that 6 hours of activity, a phone call came in. Are you the people that knocked on the doors that said you buy properties? I'm inheriting a house, and I also have another house that I have in Tracy that I want to sell. And that ended up resulting in 2 transactions on 2 properties, just from that one day. So door knocking can be a very effective way to interact with people. And then of course direct mail, which we'll talk about a little bit tonight. And then there's of course one of our least favorite right now is using the multiple listing service. Now, for those of you that don't know what bandit signs are, I know most of you do, this is what they are. I had this question asked of me, what is a bandit sign? Because I guess maybe they're not being used that much in the Bay Area. But this was a picture I think that was taken in the Atlanta market, and a good friend of ours was also using the bandit signs. It got to the point where these utility poles were covered with bandit signs, like a totem pole, you know, so many of them, to where he just decided at the very end to take his sign and put it on there and says, "Me too." Okay? I mean, there were just so many people marketing that properties for sale. So. And then there's one of our favorite methods, we call it the TTP method. Does anybody know what the TTP method is? You do.
Talk to people.
You're very good. Talk to people. One of our favorites. I just gave you an example of going out and door knocking and talking to people. It is different. Why do most people not want to go talk to people or door knock? Because there's a lot of rejection. They don't want to do it. You're going to get a lot of rejection. You're going to get chased off the premises. You're going to have people shouting at you. You're going to have people, you know, maybe yelling expletives to you. But the point is, it does pay benefits, and because you're doing something that most people don't want to do, and that can be very beneficial. So, how would you talk to people? One way is to door knock. We covered that just a few moments ago. Another way is to get them on the phone and call them. That can be intrusive, but that's another way to communicate and talk to people, right? That's not sending them a letter, that's trying to communicate with them verbally. Now, how do you get phone numbers of people? Well, here's a couple of resources. Again, they'll be in that free report if you want that report. Just send me your info and we'll get it to you. But you can use skip tracing services like TLO. Is anybody familiar with TLO? It's a great service. The private investigators use them. Microbill, Locate Plus, Skip Genie, Inquisio, LexisNexis, and on and on. And you can also, if you don't want to even talk to people yourself, you can engage a phone dialing service to call people and at least get them on the call to engage. All right, but it's a different method of reaching out, trying to touch the particular prospect. While you're doing this, of course, you can wear career attire too, maybe, you know, and feel good about it. So, formulating your marketing plan, this is going to be different for everybody in this audience. It's going to depend a lot on your time, your budget, and your skill sets. Some people are just starting out. They don't have a huge budget that they can spend every month on a well thought out, expensive marketing plan. And they may have to do some other guerrilla tactics, if you will.